You're not a writer. You're not a philosopher. Sit down, go away, and just let Paramount cancel this stupid show. With each passing episode of this Starfleet Academy, I am finding it harder and harder to speak intelligently about something that is so unbearably stupid. And this episode is somehow even worse because not only is it the same stupid that it's been the whole time, but you can tell that Alex Kurtzman and whatever his little tribe of writers are doing is actually attempting to do something philosophical here, to actually bring some sort of deep meaning into this Starfleet Academy universe that they've created, and it bombs. It fails miserably at every level. And at a certain point, it's almost offensive how condescending it is. But so essentially they're attempting to explore the human condition through the lens of Sam the hologram, because that's basically what we're getting now. Is every single episode is exactly the same episode, just focusing on a different character each time. There's nothing new here. There is not this episode is not any different from the second episode or the third episode. It's just with a new character. So here we go. You learn a little bit more about Sam the hologram, who, all things considered, is one of the characters I mind the least, just because she's cheerful, and I don't have a problem with that. I like friendly energy. But so she's this hologram from Cask, I think it is. She's basically a hologram from an entirely hologram planet who's been sent to Starfleet Academy to basically see if holograms and people can sort of reintegrate, or if like humanoid aliens, the organics is what they are basically called, can kind of visit their planet and reintegrate. Fine, whatever. Very low stakes, once again, very slow pace. There's nothing of urgency here that needs to be resolved. Like I've been saying this whole time, something that is just making this entire series drag is that there isn't an overarching narrative. The only big mystery, or the only big thing that we were trying to solve at the very beginning of the series, was Caleb's mother, and it seems like he's completely forgotten about that because now he's getting a girlfriend. Like, the character motivations in this stupid series are so weak that, again, it's laughable that we're trying to do a big, deeply nuanced concept when you can't even write characters that aren't painful parodies of real people. Essentially, Sam the hologram, she's been sent to Starfleet Academy to explore the organics and try to understand the nature of how organics function. And she's doing this with all the nuance and the complexity from, Forky from Toy Story 4.
What's going on?
Where am I?
Why is it like
How
that?
high is that?
Who is that?
Why do you think?
How long have you been a horse?
And they kind of like write in this mystery of this, like, again, this class that seems entirely made up, confronting the unexplainable. I guess you could kind of work that into a Starfleet Academy as like maybe an elective. But again, like, we're not learning engineering here, folks. Like, what is the actual work that a hologram who can process vast amounts of data at incredible speeds actually doing? And also, what is a 200-day-old hologram doing being accepted into Starfleet Academy? No standards, none whatsoever. We are not in Star Trek anymore. We are in some sort of Disney Channel, but with weird sexual jokes and innuendo series that slapped the Star Trek label on it. Then it tries to drive to these conclusions, which are basically that, when the emissary has a mission laid out in front of them, their choices are already made. They can't really be their own person. They can't make their own choices because decisions have already been made for them. And then you have Sam's overbearing makers who are forcing her to understand everything about, I'm going to call it the human condition. They call it organics in the show, which is clearly just, another way of saying the human condition, because every alien in Star Trek is humanoid. They're sentient. There's levels to them. There's, obviously probably souls, things like that. So we're going to just boil it down to the human condition, because that's really what they're trying to explore here. But Sam's overbearing makers want her to understand the unexplainable human condition, or the unexplainable aspects of the human condition, in less than a semester, and they get mad at her and threaten to take her out of Starfleet Academy if she can't fully explain it in a week. So it's obvious that Kurtzman and his little band of writers are trying to drive home the point that just because something is a creator or a prophet or a godlike being is not all-knowing. They're not all-powerful. They're not God in any actual sense of the word. They're fallible. They don't know everything. And in these instances, right, the emissaries actually knew better. And they chose their own path and they said, I'm going to do what you want, but I'm going to do it my way. Just like at the very end of the episode where she basically tells her makers to F off. She goes, I'll contact you if I need anything. Otherwise, assume it's all going fine. And then they start yelling at her and she just hangs up on them and there's zero consequences. This is the message that is reiterated over and over again through Jaden, through all of these other people. It's just if we can explore ourselves and we can be the people that we're truly meant to be, then that's the way that things really need to be. There's no adherence to tradition or to a higher power or any acknowledgement that something may know more than you or may know better than you and you need to trust in that. No. Just trust in yourself. Just go by your own vibes and everything will work out better for you that way. Just watching old episodes of TNG, it crystallizes for me what is so wrong about this mutant Starfleet Academy. Star Trek is about serving something greater than yourself. It is about serving a higher mission. It is about looking to the future. It is about honor, about choosing the hard thing. When I watched yesterday's Enterprise and they had to send an entire crew to their deaths to set things right in the universe, in the timeline, that is like an unbearably heavy weight, a burden. And they had to choose it and you had to like walk through it with them. And that was a brutal episode. And you just know that the people of this Starfleet Academy, had they been in that situation, they would have said something dumb like, well, who's to say what fate is supposed to turn out to be? We're here to write our own path and we should just choose our own mission. And as a result, the Federation would have been destroyed by the Klingon army and everybody involved would have been either dead or speaking Klingon. They don't get it. They'll never get it. And I just don't understand why you would want to create and attach something as dumb and pointless as Starfleet Academy to something so meaningful as Star Trek. If you ever doubted how full of themselves these showrunners are, just watch this episode because it tells you everything you need to know about who they think they are versus who they actually are, because you can see that in the piss poor writing of this episode. My biggest gripe with this is that these people are attempting something so deep, so nuanced, and so mystical against this backdrop of just cartoon characters. You have the digital administrator of the entire facility making jokes about Morningwood. How am I taking you seriously? How am I taking any idea that you have or any concept that you may have about faith, about the mysteries of the universe? Why would I take that seriously? Why would I take you seriously? You accepted a 200-day-old hologram into your program. I don't believe anything you say. You have not convinced me to believe or to acknowledge your perspective on anything successfully. You failed miserably at your job. You should quit. You should resign in humiliation. If you ever thought that you were a writer to begin with, I'm here to tell you, no, you're not. You're not a writer. You're not a philosopher. Sit down, go away, and just let Paramount cancel this stupid show. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go through and let's talk about the rest of the parts of this episode that made it so unbelievably terrible, shall we? The War College Starfleet feud is so boring. It is so predictable. It is just, you know that in the last or the next to last episode, there's going to be some issue or conflict or threat that's going to push the War College and Starfleet Academy together, and they're going to have to put aside their differences and work like a team. Just like Woody and Buzz.
According to my Nava computer,
Shut up!
it is, and it's unspeakably childish. And the more TNG I watch, the more I'm running out of patience for these actual children. That just, the fact that everyone runs around acting like it's high school in 2025. The piss poor attempts at vernacular. Damn, Bajorian kids don't play. What Starfleet officer talks like that? None of them. Then you have this whole Caleb Betazoid romance. It's ew. It's just ick. I don't like Caleb. I don't think this girl has any personality. Why are you constantly bringing it back to this? There's no tension. There's no sexual chemistry. There's no chemistry. There's nothing there. Every single time they're on screen together, I want to fast forward. I don't care. The whole the kiss. We're moving on. I can't even anymore. But I will stop and I will say this: will they, won't they? This is a really good example of forced conflict, you guys. This will they, won't they tension between Caleb and the Betazoid girl. Basically the only reason that they're not together, according to this episode, is because there's conflict between their schools. Are we in 8th grade? Oh, my friends don't like his friends, so we can't really hang out. Who cares? You're in Starfleet Academy. You are training to go out on diplomatic missions across the universe. A turf war? Grow up! It's so annoying. It's so boring. I'm so over it. And it's just, again, this is such forced conflict. No one would act like this in real life. They want to keep bringing it back to this rivalry between Gryffindor and Slytherin in Harry Potter. And it just stop comparing it to Harry Potter, okay? The writers of Starfleet Academy, not only do they not understand Star Trek, they also don't understand Harry Potter. All 4 houses socialized with each other. All 4 houses were friends with each other or dating each other. There wasn't this oh, you're in Hufflepuff, I can't talk to you. All 4 houses were also in competition for the House Cup, which was a consistent theme throughout each book, because each year the House Cup was awarded to a winner. We don't have that here. We just have 2 colleges that are somehow sharing the same facilities, which is further proof that one of these colleges just shouldn't exist. Why is the War College even named the War College? Why wouldn't it just be other kids at Starfleet Academy? Because they're trying to make it out like it's a war between the 2 colleges, but really it's just this friction between 2 groups of students. There's no need to create an entire other college just to have this rivalry. You can work in rivalry in different scenarios, but it can come down to person. They don't understand Hogwarts. They don't understand Harry Potter. They don't understand Star Trek. This is literally just generic Disney Channel with weird sex jokes in space with a Star Trek label on it. It's terrible. It's unbelievably bad writing. Then, of course, we get more Holly Hunter and this made up friction between the War College Chancellor Kelrick. And then Holly Hunter is, of course, she's the bigger person because you can't create a multi-dimensional, unlikable character. You just have to create this stiff, one-line type of character, Kelrick, who is just, got a stick up his butt just because he has a stick up his butt. So Holly Hunter here is being the bigger person, and she's helping him prepare for, to receive this, ambassador, this chancellor from another school on another planet so that those 2 schools can be aligned. Why is it not a conversation between all 3 schools? I don't know. We're just, I guess, in it for the plot at this point. We're just going to keep going. Holly Hunter says that she's doing it so that she's helping him so that he'll get the power turned back on to her school. But he was the one who got it offline to begin with. So it doesn't really make sense that she's striking up a bargain for that reason. It would just be hey, you need to get the power back on because our schools need to operate. And also, that was just one throwaway line that pretty much never came back up again because literally in the very next scene, there was power. No student lost power. There was no shots. There was no scenes where it was dark all around the school and everybody was navigating without the school without power this episode. That was never a thing. So again, you have these very badly written plot mechanisms that don't amount to anything and don't go anywhere. And we got this whole dynamic for probably half the episode. They're not real people. Like, these characters are just parodies of how real people act. Like, you look at how Kelrick, the War College Chancellor, is written, and it's just, he's stiff because he's stiff, but like, that's all he knows how to be. And then when you go and you watch the TNG episode Chain of Command, you know who is realistic? Captain Jellicoe. That dude is an asshole. You can tell in the way that he puts people off, the way that he asks for things, the way that he dismisses people when they try to make suggestions for him. But then he's also layered. He's also nuanced. He's completely erratic when he's dealing with the Cardassians, but he somehow outsmarts them at the end. Like, this was a very fallible, difficult jerk of a human being, but was also incredibly realistic. Like, I feel so many people, if you watch that episode, have probably felt like, oh, I've had a boss like that before. This Kelrick guy is just Disney Channel villain? He's not even a villain. He's just kind of like a dumbass. And it's painful to watch. I know what some of you are going to say, but honestly, at this point, Tig Notoro's character is the most relatable because she's not taking herself seriously. She's like the only one of any of them who's just self-aware, where she's like, yep, we're kind of here. Okay, all right. Can you get that thing like away from my face a little bit? Like, she's like appropriately annoyed and appropriately amused and just taking it all in and like not really caring that much. And I'm like, you're the one in this whole show who's kind of like a breath of fresh air. And that is saying something, you guys. That shows you the state of where we are with Starfleet Academy. And then just, here's another point of forced conflict when we look at storytelling. This whole meltdown that Kelrick kind of has when they're setting up this dinner and they laugh at the fish and they're not taking anything seriously. And he kind of stands up and he goes, "Can not any of you take anything seriously?" It was actually kind of like the singular Starfleet moment that has happened in the entire series so far. And then he accuses Holly Hunter of abandoning Starfleet and leaves. And it's so manufactured. Like, maybe there's more to the story, but just based on their follow-up conversation, there didn't seem to be any. He just took it extremely personally that she retired from Starfleet Academy, that she just said, all right, that's it. I've had enough and I'm out. Why does he care? Why is he taking it so personally that she decided to retire from Starfleet Academy, that she said, okay, I'm out? Like, were they on a mission together where he was depending on her? They didn't write that in, that they didn't make any of that, leading up or into the plot or the reason why he might be upset with her. Are people not allowed to retire from Starfleet Academy? Are they not allowed to quit? Because, Captain Picard was sure as hell considering it after he was assimilated by the Borg and escaped. He was strongly considering staying on Earth. So I don't think anyone on his crew would have seen that as a betrayal. At a certain point, if you've lived long enough, if you've been through enough experiences, you can probably say enough is enough. It felt totally forced. It was another forced plot mechanism. And it was pitiful. It didn't really amount to anything. My last real criticism of this episode, which is just going to go back to every other episode, what everybody else is saying, is just that this is nothing like Star Trek. And I'm saving this for the end because I know it's repetitive. I know so many of you who are real Star Trek fans know this already, but it is just becoming more of a personal journey for me because I have not watched a ton of Star Trek still, and I don't want to talk too much about that because I've only seen a handful of episodes. I do want to get into it more. I do want to talk more about how much I really am liking TNG, how much I really want to explore the good parts of the Star Trek universe, watch the TNG movies, all of that. So it's just becoming more of my personal journey, and the more that I am exposing myself to original Star Trek, good Star Trek, the more unacceptable this becomes. I know 1/20th, 1/100th of the Star Trek universe. And how is it that I am looking at this Starfleet Academy nonsense and wondering how we got here from original Star Trek? It only takes 2 or 3 episodes, really good episodes of TNG, to look at Starfleet Academy and go, the fuck are you? You're just this bastard child that has nothing to do with anything. You eat your comms badge and call yourself a Starfleet officer? That's not how this works. But you know, every time I hear Jaden open his mouth, I think saying what is on my mind would probably violate YouTube's community standards or policies, whatever it is. So I'm just going to like tone it down. But don't you wonder what an exchange would look like between Worf and Jaden? Like, I just want to see Worf completely Worf out on Jaden. I want Worf to teach Jaden what it means to be a Klingon. Like, I would just watch that. That doesn't even have to be an episode. That would just be like, I would sit there and I would watch 40 minutes of Worf go off on Jaden and just love every single second of it. I wish that somebody would just write that. That would be fantastic. But these are just my thoughts. I'm going to wrap up this rant, but I'm so curious to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Did you watch this episode? Do you really think that given the silliness of the universe that they've created here, that they should be broaching serious topics? Will you be watching more? Give me some other Star Trek episode recommendations because I'm on it. And if you like this video, please like, hype, subscribe so you can get more of my content. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one.